So, for any of you that have seen my video on Halo Prime, this video will be, for the most part, a reiteration of what was going on. So, for those of you who don't know, Halo Reach on the Xbox One's backwards compatibility list got an update yesterday. This update fixed a whole bunch of issues, like the frame rate and some of the texture streaming and things like that, and has made the game a lot more enjoyable on the Xbox One. Now, I've been through and I've played the campaign again, I've tested some of the firefights and things like that, to see whether this is the case, and I can tell you now that the game feels an awful lot smoother. The frame rate seems to be... The frame rate is locked at a constant 30 with, well, the occasional 29, but that's to be expected from sort of a triple buffered VSync scenario. And what I mean here is that they are using triple buffered VSync, which is, well, as far as VSync goes, the best form of VSync, and the one that will keep it closest to the frame rate that it's supposed to be at. I'm not going to go in depth as to how VSync works, but TLDR, it basically limits the refresh rate of the game to a multiple or fraction of the refresh rate of the display it's being displayed on. So for the most part, people will be using 60Hz monitors or 60Hz TVs, and it will lock it to 30Hz, which is 30 FPS. Hertz, FPS, but the same thing. Hertz is just it being drawn on screen, FPS is just the frames being put out from the GPU. This and what seems like a whole bunch of emulator optimizations, emulator being the system that the 360 games run on the Xbox One. It's emulated the same way somebody would emulate a Nintendo 64 on their PC. And it seems that they've made a lot of tweaks and things to the emulator that helps performance and games, not just Halo Reach. It helped, I think they were doing Gears of War 3 and Gears of War Judgment. Both got updates very recently on the backwards compatibility in order to run better. I assume this is because of a lot of backlash with Gears of War 3 not running as well as people would like it to, especially because Gears of War 4 wasn't out, and the Ultimate Edition's Gears of War 3 was just the backwards compatibility one on the disc, as far as I'm aware. And I'm not really going to go into the texture streaming because it's more of a technical thing, but Halo Reach now is in a much, much, much better state. And I've been scrolling down Reddit this morning, so about 16 to 20 hours after the update actually happened. And the consensus from everyone is that the update is fantastic. The update has made people able to play Reach again properly, with no frame drops, no lag, no stutter. And some people are even claiming that the input lag issue that they had was removed. Now, one thing I would like to see them do, albeit this is quite a stretch, would be to either remove or give us the option to remove the motion blur from Halo Reach, because in my opinion, motion blur doesn't really have a place in an FPS. Sure, it makes the game look smoother, but it can... But in a multiplayer scenario, the motion blur can hinder you, as you can't see players as you pan across them as well as you would be able to without motion blur. And I personally would prefer no motion blur, especially if people want to play the game somewhat competitively. I know it's not going to have an esports following or anything like that, but you know, there are people that want to play the game to win. And motion blur sort of removes some of the ability for a player to play to their full potential. At least that's my opinion. I may well do a full video on motion blur in first-person shooters and why I personally think it's a bad thing, why people think it's a good thing, and how it affects frame rates and other things like that. If you want to see that, let me know in the comment section below. If you've got any other comments, leave them in the comment section below. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed, and maybe even hit the subscribe button. And remember, stay classy.